first off, can you tell us a little bit about the Zed character who's coming in? Because we've seen the pilot, which obviously didn't have her in it.
She'll show up in the next episode. She's a character from the comic books, but for people that don't read comic books, they'll get a good introduction to her over the first few episodes. She's got some supernatural abilities, and what's cool about Zed, we don't want to give too much away, is that she's got a really interesting backstory, which will lead to a whole possibly seasonal arc of storytelling.
Yeah, look, for anybody who is a Hellblazer fan and who knows anything about Zed's backstory,
they'll know where we're going.
We're going to be as faithful to that as we can. For the viewer that isn't initiated,
That's
that
okay
backstory
too.
will be a bit of a mystery. We're going to play it as a mystery, so we're going to play it as a mystery from Constantine's perspective. But we just feel that she's very rich. We feel that as someone who can stay in the show with Constantine, especially throughout our first season arc, look, Constantine's a bullshit artist.
He's a bastard.
And he's a bullshit artist, and as a sensitive, as like sort of a clairsentient character, she's someone who's a bullshit detector. So she can call him on his lies, on his games, on his manipulations, and it's something we didn't really feel like the Liv character could do. She was such a newbie, and she was a little too wide-eyed. And when we really thought about the storytelling, we thought, let's give him somebody who's an adversary and can provide conflict and can really get in his face, and also have romantic potential. Because let's face it, as we presented her, Liv was the daughter of Jasper, who
of
was
his mentor.
And
it was a
would have
little
been weird.
Yeah.
So yeah.
He must be a fun character to tell stories with.
Constantine?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's so much fun to write for because he's not a cop. He's not an FBI guy. He's not. He approaches everything in such an idiosyncratic way, and he's just a blast, right?
If you look at the magic, sort of the mages, through the ages that have come through comic books or really almost any literary world, oftentimes they're very austere, especially the British ones. They're very austere.
Professorial.
They're proper. They're older. This guy's he's a streetwise, warlock is what he is.
He's a
And
scrapper.
con man,
He
he's
was in a
cynical,
punk band.
He's a supernatural grifter. It's like they're like what we like to say, if Constantine comes across a situation, he might try to get out of it with magic. If he can't get out of it with magic, he might try and kick your ass. If he can't kick your ass, then he might try a con. And if the con doesn't work, then he'll turn tail and run. It's like he's
just that guy.
He's just a guy who's not afraid of
He's Paul Newman in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. When he kicks that guy in the balls.
So writing for him is fun.
Yeah, that kind of comes across.
What about villains? I know, you're obviously going to have these kind of Demon of the Week scenarios, and Constantine has to solve problems.
They're not all demons.
But is there somebody kind of that is eventually going to move
big bads
over the season?
Yeah,
there is somebody behind, even within our first season serialized arc. There is somebody behind these things that are being released.
Yes.
And again, if you go back to the American Gothic storyline in Swamp Thing, that's the genesis for this. So we're going back to the source material.
But also Papa Midnight will be showing up as a recurring character in the first season.
His all has been laid in, and
he'll have lots of foes, some supernatural, some not.
How much will the map guide what Constantine does going forward?
It's a guide in the beginning, and eventually there will become a story reason for why it's not so much after that, by deliberately being cryptic.
There's things like that, especially when you're doing a TV show and and you're sitting there as a writer, and you want to launch your character into stories, and that's what people. If you're spending too much time in page count and exposition, how do we get Constantine to get to this place? It's a lifesaver. To have something like that really just gets us in the story and hopefully gets viewers to a place where they're more activated and our characters are just right into the drama. So it's a useful tool, but we do anticipate
veering away from it
eventually.